Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. If you have seen the news recently, you see that the headlines across the world are the starvation in Gaza. And we need to discuss that and understand what is really happening there. So, joining me today is the founder and chairman of IDSF, Brigadier General Amir Avivi. General, thank you so much for joining today.
My pleasure, Moshe.
So why don't we just jump in with that topic? Is there a starvation in Gaza right now? What is the truth? What is happening?
Well, there is no starvation in Gaza. And we know exactly what's going on inside Gaza. We cannot say that we are sure that every single Gazan, is getting exactly the amount of food he needs. But there is first of all, there is no intentional starvation. Israel is not conducting a policy of starvation. We're sending huge amounts of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, much more than you would expect a country to give to its enemy. And if there are problems, it's because of Hamas seizing this aid, taking it for itself, selling it for overpriced amount of money to its own population. So since Hamas is controlling the Gazans completely, we cannot control the way it's distributed inside Gaza. We can just send the aid, and there is enough aid going on. And we haven't really heard about any phenomena of people who don't have food. But we're dealing with a vicious campaign, global. This week I decided we're now in the age of AI. So I decided to ask two major AI platforms, ChatGPT and Perplexity, who is behind this campaign? And both of them, without any hesitation, said Abu Mazen, the Palestinian Authority. And this is the reality. Hamas and the Palestinian Authority are cooperating. Hamas is fighting on the ground. Palestinian Authority is conducting a global campaign against Israel, utilizing the UN and the European Union and other forces against Israel. And we reached a point where really the truth doesn't matter anymore. Israel is having trouble in fighting this campaign. And at the end of the day, the Prime Minister understood that it's not about being right, it's about being smart. What to do in order to sustain the fight and still enjoy international legitimacy. And therefore, Israel decided not only to continue giving aid, but to do it in ways that are more visible. When you send, for example, aid from planes, it's not a lot of aid. Maybe all the planes that sent aid is 1.5 trucks, maybe. But, it looks good. You see it, you can see it with your eyes, and it's done in cooperation with the Arab countries. So Israel is really trying to fight this battle. It's not easy. But at the moment, it's not really affecting the goals of war. We're continuing to fight fiercely with our divisions and do, the job on the ground.
Now, General, is there a pause in the fighting? Just to clarify this, is the IDF stopping in order to be more aggressive with the aid, or you're saying no, this is not affecting the campaign to destroy Hamas?
It affected this week in a minimal way in certain areas, in the populated areas in Gaza. We did a few hours of humanitarian we stopped fighting, but in very specific areas, especially in the areas where the population is. but the fighting is fierce, and the IDF is continuing to fight. And I think that we're now in a very defining moment. Really, we need to take the decisions where to go from here. Israel really, really wanted a hostage deal, wanted to release hostages in a deal in a way that they will be released safely, with all the prices, which are devastating. I mean, each deal like that is terrible, talking about the prices, but on the other hand, we get hostages. But for many reasons, Hamas is not agreeing. We thought that we'll reach this point that after conquering 75% of Gaza and after winning against Iran and all that, the terms will be created for a hostage deal. The Hamas will be really with its back against the wall and really desperate to have a hostage deal. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen for several reasons. One, that it's not really Hamas in Gaza taking decisions. It's Hamas outside of Gaza. It's the leadership in Qatar, in Egypt. And these guys are in five-star hotels. They don't feel the pressure. They don't care. They don't care what happens in Gaza. And they don't want to release the hostages. Another reason is the feeling that maybe the government is not stable. The ultra-Orthodox left the government. Government seems stable. Maybe there will be elections. And this gives the Hamas the feeling that, maybe because supposedly the government is not stable, and maybe the war will stop, there will be elections, so they prefer to wait and see what will happen. And this is coupled also by this campaign, global pressure and campaign, that also gives Hamas the sense that there is enough international pressure, and also they're getting huge amounts of aid, so they're not lacking anything. So, that they feel they can stall all of this. And anyway, we have elections anyway in a year, so and they want to slow things down. And Israel is in a crossroad that the coming day, 2, 3, we need to take a decision. There is or there isn't a hostage deal. If there is no hostage deal, Israel needs to change its policy end to end. And changing the policy has several options and combined options. One, I think that the one way still to bring the hostages safely is through the president's demand to extradite all the leadership of Hamas outside of Israel, outside of Gaza. This is the one way to really create real leverage and pressure. We have to arrest all of them and send them to Guantanamo, to a dungeon. And this way, I think we can create the pressure to release all the hostages safely. If this doesn't happen, and if there is no real pressure on Qatar and Egypt, which are also cooperating with Hamas against us, and the US has the leverage on both Qatar and Egypt, so really the president holds the key to release our hostages safely. If he really does what should be done, the hostages will be released safely. If not, we'll have to kill all of them, all this leadership outside of Israel and Gaza, and we'll have to operate militarily, close on the areas where the hostages are, and then 2 options. 1, negotiate on the houses, on the tunnels, with the specific terrorists that are holding the hostages. This is obviously more dangerous, but it's also an opportunity to do it simultaneously and release as many hostages as possible, and also acting militarily. I mean, trying to release them by force. It's complicated, but it can be done, and we have no other choice. I mean, if there won't be a hostage deal, we have to go in and get our hostages. I think that, again, always when we are with our backs against the wall, the burst of creativity and ingenuity, everything comes out. And now we are 100% focused on Gaza, not Iran and not Hezbollah and not Syria, and all the special units and all the capabilities. So I think that already the defense establishment is getting ready to rescue the hostages, because we have no other choice if there is no deal. And I'm sure that if it's done, Israel will really use the greatest technologies and capabilities and tactics we have to do everything possible to release the hostages safely. It's a big risk, but we don't have another choice. And then talking about eradicating Hamas, there are several plans that are being discussed. All of them, at the end of the day, will bring an end to Hamas in Gaza. So it's not about the goal, it's about the tactic, how to reach the goal. One possibility is a full attack on all the remaining 25% and conquering the whole Gaza Strip. The advantage is that we'll control everything, we'll destroy and eradicate Hamas. Disadvantages is that obviously there will be a price, it's a fierce fight, but also we'll have to control all these people, and they apply the military control over the whole society, at least for a certain period of time. So it's definitely an option. And the army is presenting plans to conquer Gaza completely. And this is one option. The other option is doing it partially, taking the heart of Gaza, the northern part of Gaza, the city itself of Gaza, and conquering the city of Gaza, pushing all the Gazans south of the city, south of Netzarim corridor, and then having the whole north of Gaza, from Netzarim to the north, without any Gazans, without any Hamas. And then we need to take a decision. What do we do with the north of Gaza? Do we create a World Trade Center, build something? I don't know. Annex everything? We have to think really what we want and what prices they're going to pay for what they did for us, to us, and we'll see whether it's done. Another option that is being discussed is conquering maybe 5-10% more, like really a very small area will remain not conquered. In this area, there will be the remaining Hamas and the Gazans, meaning we're not taking control of the Gazans themselves. It will be a very small Gaza, and do an attrition war on this last 15-20%, meaning we control all of Gaza almost. We destroyed all the infrastructure, all the terrorists on this area. There is only like this 15-20%, and there we hit them continuously until they surrender. So on this 15-20%, they're not going to be able to endanger us. We won't need a lot of forces to deal with this. We can send with the reservist home, deal with this with the regular army. We'll push the whole army around this small area that remained. But two advantages. One, we won't need so many forces to deal with this. And the other thing, we won't need to occupy Gaza, meaning we'll conquer most of Gaza, but not occupy the Gazans themselves. They would still remain in a small area and not under IDF control. The third option, which was the leading option, and now seems like becoming less and less of an option, is moving all the Gazans to Rafah, detaching them from Hamas. I think that the government that really pushed that now is pushing it less, because there is a feeling that although it's a good plan, without the cooperation of the UN and the international organization, the willingness to work with Israel, and with all this international campaign against Israel, if we take full responsibility of the Gazans in an area controlled by the IDF, although that's the most human thing to do, the right thing to do, this is usually how the UN operates. In our case, because of this anti-Semitic approach, it might backfire on us. It they might try to accuse us, like we're doing a camp or whatever. So I think that following all this campaign we're experiencing now, there is less motivation to do this humanitarian islands that we suggested at the time, which on the paper it's a good idea, but now it seems a bit complicated. So there are several options, and I think that all of them lead to the collapse of Hamas. I think that really, if until now everything that dictated what's happening in Gaza was more like military oriented, what was needed to do militarily, this is what dictated what happened on the ground. Now it's less about the IDF and the military side, it's more about the vision and the policy. What do we want? What's Gaza the day after? And the government will have to take these decisions in the coming days. I think that Netanyahu already coordinated these things with Trump. It's being discussed in the cabinet. And if anybody thinks that, like things are not looking good at the moment, we're bringing aid and this pressure, and it seems like the IDF is not attacking enough. This kind of feeling was also before we attacked in Iran. And then one night, everybody woke up to a massive, massive attack on Iran and everything that followed this attack. Same is going to happen now. Seems like, things are not moving and we're waiting and there will be or not will be a deal, but in the coming days, decisions will be taken and Israel will move to destroy Hamas in multiple ways. And this is what we expect to see in the coming days. We know that we are now in weeks that are less good usually for Jewish initiatives between Yud Zayin B'Tammuz and 9 of Av. Usually these are very difficult days for the Jewish people. Tisha B'Av is the day that 2 temples were destroyed. And many of the really worst things that happened to the Jewish people happened in Yud Zayin Tammuz and in Tisha B'Av. But usually after this period of time, it's much better times for the Jewish people and the holidays and the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I think that as the weeks will move forward, as of this coming week, we'll start seeing things moving again towards the right direction and towards a decisive win. And I think that this coming months or two are going to be very dramatic. Unless we'll wake up in a day or two and there will be a ceasefire because of a deal that was signed. But if there will be no ceasefire, Israel is going to move towards destroying Hamas and releasing the hostages, and we'll see dramatic things happening.
General, thank you for sharing that, and thank you to all of our viewers for sending in questions. Every day we send out a Zoom reminder, and somehow that reminder did not go out today. So everyone who joined, I think they did it despite getting that reminder, which just shows the commitment to these briefings. General, people are asking, just to clarify, you've said that there isn't this widespread starvation in Gaza as the media is claiming. But just to give us a little bit of an understanding of that 75% that the IDF is controlling versus the 25%, which we have not yet gone in and taken over. What is the status of the food distribution in that 75%? Meaning, if the IDF is truly completely on top of it, are there any issues of Hamas, attacking convoys or disrupting the flow of aid in that 75%? And if that is a problem, so then is the IDF truly controlling that whole area?
So this 75% that Israel took over, basically there is no Gazans and pretty much no Hamas in this 75%. I mean, the way the IDF operated to conquer this 75%, each time the IDF went to conquer a certain area, it told the Gazans, listen, we're going in, artillery, air force, first attack, move out of the area. Most of them did. And then when they saw, those who didn't, when they saw the forces moving forward, they moved. So this 75%, we conquered it, and we are completely cleaning out this area from tunnels, booby traps, houses that are booby trapped, IEDs. The whole infrastructure is being destroyed, and also all pockets of resistance of Hamas in this 75% are systematically destroyed. So at the end of the day, all this 75% will look like Rafah. Pretty much completely leveled down and no terrorists and no Gazans. So all of them moved to the remaining 25%. And the remaining 25% are along the shore from the Mawasi, which is west of Khan Yunis. Mawasi is basically Gush Katif. It's where Gush Katif was. So the Gazan population is spread from the Mawasi along the shore to the central camps and the city of Gaza along the shore. All the rest of Gaza is completely empty. It's only IDF. And they stay on this 25%. And then really the dilemma is, do you go into this already very densely populated area and operate in such a densely operated area, or you say, no, I'm controlling 75%, maybe we'll do 80%, maybe 85%, but this is almost the whole Gaza Strip. So you can surround them from the south, from the north, and from the east. And then, you completely control the area. Behind you, there is nothing. I mean, so empty. And there, operate more with the drones, with the Air Force, with the, from afar, and also raiding occasionally places, but not conquering the whole 2 million people or 1.5 million, whatever the number is in Gaza. And this is the dilemma. And it's a serious dilemma. I mean, people say, what's the problem? Conquer, go in, conquer it. No, it's not so easy. Not because of Hamas, because of the amount of people you have there. And you have to decide if you really want to have control of all of them. So this is the discussion that is going on. And again, each plan has inside it different options also. And the cabinet now is moving towards taking the decisions. But one thing is true, if there is no hostage deal, all the leadership of Hamas outside of Gaza needs to go, or to jail, or be targeted. Because when we say Hamas needs to be destroyed as a governmental entity, they are the government. They need to be destroyed, to be eradicated. The best thing is to expedite them. But if not, we have other ways to deal with them.
So when the decision is made to go into that 25%, let's say when rather than if, a large part of that population presumably has to be moved out. And you're saying creating a humanitarian city in the south of Gaza is less realistic right now because of all the world pressure. So if you don't put them in a humanitarian city, can the IDF operate in such a dense area, or do they have to be moved? And if they're being moved, so if they're not going into a humanitarian city, where are they going to?
So most of them can reside in Mawasi, where they are anyway, and in the area of the central camps on the western side, and the outskirts of Gaza City. So they were basically all along the shore. Most of them are there anyway. There are very few places that, if you go in and release hostages, you will have to move the Gazans. But at the end of the day, you will have like 15-20% that this will be the areas where they will be with the tents, and this will be the humanitarian zone. And basically, the IDF and Shin Bet will continue targeting the remaining leadership of Hamas, even in this zone, and raid and arrest and do whatever they need to do, but not necessarily take civil control of all of them. And if the government will decide to conquer everything, okay, we'll conquer everything. So we'll also have civil control. But it's it's a decision, and it's not an easy one. And also it connects to other issues like, okay, do we have a relocation or not? Is the US and Israel, are they going to sign agreements with countries? Are we going to see the beginning of moving Gazans to other countries? Because if we will, then you will see Israel starting to move people to Rafah, not million, maybe 100,000 at a time, and the ones that want to leave, and then enable them to live to wherever they want. So it's a lot of considerations that need to be taken, and we'll see the decision making in the coming days. So we all have to wait and know that if there won't be a hostage deal of 60 days in the coming few days, it's a whole new scenario. And we are going to move towards the end of the war, meaning we are going in, we're going to bring our hostages, we're going to destroy the remaining forces of Hamas, and really bring an end to this war with a decisive win.
Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And thank you, of course, for your leadership throughout this war. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you to all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing. We will be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.